Disclaimer: this story explores mature emotional themes including complex family relationships, estrangement, and personal trauma. There is no explicit material, but viewer discretion is advised. I wasn't expecting anyone, especially not at that hour. The house was silent, save for the low hum of the refrigerator and the ticking clock over the stove. It was just past 2 a.m. when I heard the knock, not a frantic pounding, just 3 slow, measured taps on the front door. I froze. For a second I wondered if I'd imagined it, but then came another knock. Same rhythm, same weight. I live alone. That knock was either a mistake or something else entirely. Grabbing the robe off the hook, I padded quietly to the door, peering through the peephole with cautious curiosity. The porch light cast a pale glow on the figure outside. Male, broad shoulders hunched slightly, hands buried in the pockets of a faded hoodie. He looked up just enough for me to catch his face. My stomach dropped. It was Ethan. My stepson. I hadn't seen him in 5 years, last time we spoke. He told me, very clearly, that he never wanted to speak to me again, that I'd ruined everything, that I wasn't his real mother and never would be. He was 22 then, old enough to mean it. I was stunned, not just because of the time of night, but because of everything that led up to the silence. The guilt, the resentment, the things we both left unsaid. When my husband, his father, passed away, Ethan shut me out completely. He moved across the country, changed his number, and disappeared from my life. I let him go, thinking it was what he needed. And now here he was, standing on my porch like a ghost from a life I'd tried to move past. I unlocked the door slowly, heart pounding. He looked up at me, eyes bloodshot, cheeks flushed from either crying or cold. Or both. "Hi," he said, voice rough. I didn't know where else to go. There was a pause. He didn't step forward, didn't ask to come in. He just stood there, like he was waiting for permission to exist in my world again. I didn't know what to say. There were 1,000 questions. Why now? What happened? Was he okay? But instead, I opened the door wider. "Come in." He hesitated for half a second before stepping inside, shoulders still tight, hands trembling. He looked around like the house was both familiar and foreign, like he wasn't sure he belonged. I led him to the kitchen without speaking, turned on the kettle. Some things don't change, I guess. You don't ask questions before tea, not in this house. He sat at the counter, eyes fixed on the floor. I finally broke the silence. "Is everything all right?" He exhaled sharply through his nose like he was holding back something bigger. "No, not really." He didn't say more, just shook his head, jaw clenched, and I realized he wasn't just here for a visit. Something had driven him to my doorstep, something serious. What I didn't know yet was that nothing about this night would be simple or safe. The tea sat untouched between us. Steam curled into the space like a quiet witness. Neither of us seemed ready to say what needed saying. Ethan looked older than I remembered, tired in a way that went beyond age. His jaw was tighter, his shoulders stiffer. Whatever had brought him here wasn't small. But I also knew not to push. Not yet. He'd come this far. That meant something. "You hungry?" I asked, not because I thought he was, but because silence was starting to burn. He gave the smallest nod. I reheated leftover soup from the fridge. He stared at the countertop the whole time, fiddling with the hem of his sleeve. I noticed his hands scratched, dry, like he'd been on the road, or running from something. As I placed the bowl in front of him, I noticed the wedding band still on his finger, his father's. He hadn't taken it off. "You kept it," I said quietly. He didn't look up, just gave a half shrug. Didn't feel right not to. And just like that, the air between us shifted, thicker now, more fragile. After James died, we were both wrecks, but in different ways. I buried myself in routine. Ethan lashed out, hard. The last time he'd stood in this kitchen, it had ended in shouting and slammed doors. He'd accused me of trying to replace his mother, of keeping him out of decisions. He never forgave me for selling the house in Denver, for moving on too fast. And now here he was, years later, eating reheated soup like a man with nowhere else to go. "You want to tell me what happened?" I asked gently. He pushed the bowl away and leaned back, rubbing his face with both hands. "It's not. I didn't come here to dump all my crap on you. I didn't ask why you came. I asked what happened." His hands dropped. He looked at me, then really looked, eyes raw, like he was barely holding himself together. "She left me," he said. "My wife packed up and took everything, even the dog. The words hit the room like a weight. I'm sorry, I said, because it was the only true thing I could offer. She said I was too angry all the time. That I was broken. There it was, the crack beneath the surface. Are you? I asked softly. He blinked at me like no one had ever asked that before. His mouth opened then closed. I don't know. We sat in that quiet again. But this time it wasn't empty. It was full of things unsaid. Regret. Blame. Pain. Maybe a little hope. I didn't come here looking for forgiveness, he said. I didn't know where else to go. You don't need forgiveness to be let in, I said. You're still family. He nodded. But I could see the doubt in his face, like he didn't fully believe that anymore, like he wasn't sure if he deserved it. I wanted to ask if he was safe, if someone was after him, if there was more to the story, but his walls were still up, and I knew Ethan. He wouldn't say anything until he was ready. Still, something about the way he flinched when the wind hit the window, something about the way he kept checking his phone, only to find nothing there. It told me this night was far from over, and whatever he was running from hadn't caught up to us yet. Ethan fell asleep on the couch around 4 a.m., still fully dressed, hoodie pulled halfway over his face like a shield. I covered him with a throw blanket. He used to complain was too scratchy when he was younger. Now he didn't seem to care. I didn't sleep. I just sat in the kitchen, watching the sunrise slow and reluctant through the blinds. Something wasn't sitting right. It wasn't just the breakup. I could see that in his eyes. There was more. Something deeper, the kind of weight that doesn't come from a failed marriage alone. Round 6, I started making coffee. The sound must have stirred him because he sat up slowly, blinking like he forgot where he was. You didn't have to let me stay, he said hoarsely. I handed him a mug. Didn't have to think about it either. He nodded. Silent again, always carrying everything on his own back. You're not in trouble, are you? I asked, not dancing around it anymore. He froze mid-sip. What do you mean, you tell me? You show up out of nowhere, middle of the night, looking like you haven't slept in days. He put the mug down too hard. I said I'm not in trouble. Ethan, he stood, hands on his hips, pacing now. I got into something with my job, all right? I made a mistake. I thought I could fix it, but then it got worse. What kind of mistake? He stopped pacing. Jaw clenched. There's money missing. I didn't take it. But I was the last one who touched the account. Now my name's on some list, and no one's answering my calls. My stomach turned. Are the police involved? He shook his head. Not yet, but I think someone's trying to pin this on me. Or make me disappear before it gets that far. The words hit hard, not just because of what they meant, but how he said them, like he didn't know who to trust anymore. You think someone's following you? I don't know. He muttered. My car's been parked 2 blocks away for days. I've seen the same black SUV at least 3 times near my place. Might be nothing, but... I panicked and I ran. Now the tension made sense. The late night knock, the flinching at windows. The way he kept checking his phone but never called anyone back. You should go to the police, I said carefully. He looked at me like I'd just suggested setting himself on fire. And tell them what? That I think I'm being watched by someone I can't name for money I didn't take from a company that already locked me out of everything. Silence. I just needed somewhere to breathe. He said, I thought maybe here, maybe you. His voice cracked. I nodded. You're not alone here. But I need the truth, Ethan. If someone's after you, I need to know exactly what we're up against. He sat back down, rubbing his temples. There's a flash drive in my jacket. It has everything: emails, transfers, names. I didn't know who to send it to. I figured if something happened to me, maybe you'd. The doorbell rang. We both froze, once, twice, 3 times, same rhythm as the night before. I looked at Ethan. His face went pale. He whispered, That's not normal. And for the first time since he showed up, I felt fear tighten in my chest. I didn't move at first, neither did Ethan. We just stared at the door like it might open on its own. 3 knocks again. Same slow rhythm. Like whoever it was knew exactly how to send a message without saying a word. I whispered, Did you tell anyone you were coming here? He shook his head. No one knows. I didn't even have my phone on until yesterday. I swear. I moved slowly to the side table and grabbed my phone. No missed calls, no alerts. I turned the screen brightness down and dialed 911 but didn't hit call. Not yet. What if it's just a neighbor? I said, more to myself than him. Ethan shook his head. That's not how neighbors knock at 6 a.m. A beat passed. Then footsteps, faint, slow, fading back down the porch. We waited another full minute before I eased toward the window and peeked through the curtain. No one on the porch, no car in the driveway, nothing. But then I saw it, a black SUV, parked half a block down, windows tinted, engine running. They're still out there, I said quietly. Ethan stood behind me, watching too. His face was drained of all color. They're watching the house. Waiting to see what I'll do. Then we don't wait, I said. Get the flash. Drive. He grabbed his jacket and pulled out the small silver device, placing it in my hand like it was made of glass. There's enough on here to ruin someone, he said. But if they find out I still have it. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. We packed quickly. I didn't ask questions. I just grabbed essentials, stuffed them into a duffel, and told Ethan to keep low. He hesitated in the hallway, looking at the photo of James still hanging near the front door, his father, my husband, gone. Almost 7 years. Now, he'd know what to do. Ethan muttered. Maybe, I said. But he'd want you safe first. Let's go. We slipped out the back door, through the neighbor's side gate, and into the alley. I unlocked my old Subaru quietly, and we climbed in. Ethan slouched low in the passenger seat. Hoodie pulled up again. I didn't turn on the headlights until we were 2 blocks away. Didn't speak until we hit the main road. Where are we going? He asked. To someone who can help, a friend of your father's. Ex-detective, quiet guy. Doesn't ask questions until he has answers. Ethan nodded, but his hands were still shaking. I wanted to reach over and calm him, but I also knew he needed to hold himself together on his own terms. You believe me, right? He asked suddenly. You don't think I stole that money? I glanced at him. The pain in his voice was sharp, like this was the real fear, not just being chased or caught, but being doubted. I don't think you're perfect, I said, but I know you're not a thief. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for days. Then his phone lit up. Unknown number, 1 text. You shouldn't have run. I gripped the wheel tighter. Block it. He stared at the screen. It's not from a normal number. Look at it. I did. The number was just a series of 6 digits. No area code, no name, and the worst part, it was the same number that had texted him 2 days ago. The message that made him leave everything behind and come to me. We were already in motion, already running, but now, it felt like we were being hunted. We reached the cabin by noon. Isolated. No cell service, exactly how Tom liked it. Tom was an old friend of James's, retired detective with a reputation for quiet loyalty and not asking too many questions. I hadn't spoken to him in years, but when he opened the door and saw Ethan, he didn't hesitate. You look like hell, Tom said bluntly. Feels about right, Ethan replied. He led us inside, poured strong coffee, and didn't say a word until we were sitting at the table, the flash drive between us like a live wire. I'll plug it in, you to just sit tight, Tom said, taking his old laptop into the other room. Ethan looked around. You sure about him? I nodded. He worked homicide for 20 years. Buried to partners, he doesn't scare easy. Ethan leaned back, tried to relax, but it was clear he wasn't built for this kind of waiting. He kept glancing at the window, tapping his knee, checking his dead phone like it might magically spark back to life. 10 minutes passed, then 20. I stood. I'll go check on him. The hallway was narrow. The door to Tom's study cracked open. I stopped cold. I heard voices. She doesn't know yet. Just tell me what you want me to do with him. Tom's voice low, calculated. Another voice muffled, on speakerphone. Keep him there until we get the rest. Then clean it up. I stepped back, heart slamming against my ribs. The floor creaked. Silence. Tom opened the door. His face was neutral, but his eyes had changed, cold. Focus. You shouldn't be sneaking around, Mia, he said. What the hell is going on? I asked, backing into the living room. Ethan stood up when he saw me. What's wrong? Tom's working with them, I said. Tom walked in slowly, hands out. It's not what you think. I'm trying to make this clean for both of you. Ethan stared at him, stunned. You said you were helping me. I am, Tom said calmly, but helping doesn't always mean saving. Ethan pulled the flash drive off the table. You were going to turn me in. Tom shook his head. You think this is about you? That drive has more than just money trails. Your father was in deep before he died. Old debts, old enemies. You're just the unlucky one who walked into the fire. I felt everything tilt. James. That's not possible, Dotto. It's very possible, Tom said. You think he left you the insurance money out of love? He was trying to cover his end before things got messy. Ethan's face crumbled. You're lying. I wish I was. It didn't feel like a conversation anymore. It felt like a trap. And we were already inside it. I stepped in front of Ethan, blocking him from Tom's reach. You need to leave. No, Tom sighed. Don't be stupid, Mia. If I walk out of here without that drive, they'll just come back harder. You know how this works. But I wasn't listening anymore. Because while Tom spoke, Ethan had slipped the flash drive into his sock and quietly picked up the fireplace poker with his other hand. We didn't have time to think. Only to move, and when Tom reached for his phone, Ethan struck. Tom staggered backward, the poker strike catching him in the shoulder, not the head. But it was enough to knock his phone loose and enough of a distraction for us to run. We bolted through the back door, down the uneven steps, into the trees. The woods behind the cabin were thick with pine and the cold bit through our clothes. Like glass. I didn't look back. Neither did Ethan. Not until we reached the stream about a quarter-mile out. He collapsed at the base of a fallen log, breathing hard. I dropped beside him, trying to steady my pulse. My hands were trembling, but not from the cold. He looked at me. You okay? No. You not even close. We both laughed a little, just out of sheer disbelief, but then reality rushed in. We can't go back, I said. Not there, not anywhere near it. Ethan nodded. What now? I pulled out the flash drive, still warm from where it had been tucked inside his sock. We stopped running, but how? We can't trust anyone. Maybe not anyone you know, I said, but I know someone. I pulled my phone from my jacket, turned it on, and waited for service. 1 bar, then 2. Just enough. I opened a contact I hadn't touched in almost 8 years. Detective Maynard, Internal Affairs. The only person James ever said was clean. I hit call. She picked up after 2 rings. Mia, I need help. And I need you to believe me before I send you something that could get us both killed. There was a pause on the line, then talk. We moved fast after that. I sent a copy of the files, locations, names, every detail Ethan remembered from his office. Within 20 minutes, Maynard called back. This goes deeper than your stepson. This is organized, financial, laundering, blackmail, even ties to 2 unsolved deaths. We've been circling this for months. That flash drive is the missing piece. My stomach sank. James, was he part of this? A longer pause. No. But he knew about it. He tried to protect you both. That insurance policy, it was hush money, not from him. From them, he took the fall for a debt he never owed, so they'd leave his family alone. Ethan's eyes filled when I repeated it to him. He knew I'd end up caught in it. He tried to stop it, I said quietly, and now we can finish what he started. We were escorted into protective custody within hours, not dramatic, no sirens. Just 2 unmarked cars and plainclothes officers who didn't smile. The news broke a week later. Arrests, seized assets, a well-known company exposed. Tom's name was among those listed, charged but not yet in custody. We watched it all from a safe house across the state. Ethan turned off the TV, silence wrapping around us. Do you think it's really over? He asked. I wanted to say yes. Instead I said, I think we can breathe again. He nodded slowly. You didn't have to help me, you know, after everything. I'm not your mother, I said, but I love the man who raised you, and I know he'd have done the same. Ethan looked at me. He did. He just did it in silence. Outside, the snow started to fall, quiet, steady, clean, but in the distance, just past the fence line, I saw it again, a black SUV, watching. Waiting, the end or not. It had been 3 months since the cabin. 3 months since Ethan and I had fled into the woods. Since we watched the empire behind his father's secrets come crashing down. We weren't hiding anymore, and honestly, after all that had happened, normalcy felt like a blessing. We didn't talk much about James, not at first. But the silence wasn't heavy. It was respectful. When we did speak his name, it was with clarity. Not all heroes wear capes. Some just make one final, impossible decision to shield the ones they love. Ethan kept the flash drive, not for revenge, not for leverage, just as a reminder. We knew the media would forget eventually. Another scandal would pop up. When I could have walked away, I didn't, and I'm proud of that. We're not perfect, but we're surviving, together. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Drop a comment below. We love hearing from you.